Welcome back to my review of Eerie, Indiana. If you're a new viewer, you can watch my past reviews on the show. I'll be doing a review of each episode, well if I can. This video I'll be reviewing episode 3, the ATM with the Heart of Gold. So let's get into it. This episode originally aired on September 29th, 1991, and was directed by Sam Pillsbury, known for The Quiet Earth and Free Willy 3. The episode starts with the creepy shot of Mr. Wilson, the new ATM in Eerie, and Marshall telling us what happened to Simon. It then cuts to a few days earlier at some sort of celebration to introduce Mr. Wilson. I think it's funny that there's only a few people in the crowd. The mayor of Eerie, who was played by Gregory Itzin, who is perhaps best known for playing President Charles Logan in the TV show 24, gives his speech and gives the mic over to Marshall's dad, Edgar, who created Mr. Wilson. Edgar tells everyone how Mr. Wilson will change the banking industry and how they're going to test it right there in Eerie. I like how Mr. Wilson resembles Marshall's dad with the glasses and bow tie. Edgar explains how unique Mr. Wilson is and how he's dependable when you need him the most, 24/7. Simon is watching in the background, looking intrigued. He goes up to Mr. Wilson, but Simon doesn't have a bank account, so he just typed in his name, Simon. Nothing happens at first, so Simon walks away, disappointed. Just then, Mr. Wilson hands out a $20 bill and drops it. Simon is surprised and picks it up and runs to tell Edgar and the mayor that Mr. Wilson gave out a $20 bill. Edgar brushed it off, saying it's impossible, that maybe someone dropped it by mistake. Then the mayor tells him to keep it and to beat it. Marshall already suspects something about Mr. Wilson. After a while, nobody seems interested in Mr. Wilson. People are just walking past him. As Marshall and Simon ride past Mr. Wilson on their bikes, Mr. Wilson says have a nice day to Simon, which makes him stop immediately and look at Mr. Wilson. The shot was super creepy. We are then introduced for the first time to the Wurlo Stuff, a common hangout in future episodes. Wurlo Stuff is basically a one-stop shop place run by a sketchy owner named Mr. Radford, who is constantly in a different disguise. Mr. Radford is played by Archie Hahn. I recognize him from Small Soldiers and Gremlins 2. Marshall thinks he's in the Witness Protection Program. Mr. Radford is showing the new shoes called the Sky Monsters to Marshall and his friends, Nick and Eddie, who are played by Gabriel Damon, who I know from RoboCop 2, and Eddie, who is played by Scott Weinger, who is best known as Steve from Full House and the voice of Aladdin. Simon comes in and tells Marshall that Mr. Wilson told him to have a nice day. They ignored Simon and Nick proceeds to buy the new shoes. Simon, whose shoes seem to be falling apart, is feeling left out. Simon tells them that his b-day is tomorrow, and that his dad might buy him some Sky Monsters too. Eddie and Nick just laugh it off and leave to get some food.
Oh, me too, man. My big guts are eating my little guts.
Simon whips out a 20 from Mr. Wilson and says lunch is on him, trying to impress Eddie and Nick. Eddie later on invites Marshall to his house to check out his brother's new girlfriend. Marshall thinks that sometimes it's good to hang out with people his own age. Eddie and Nick thank Simon for the food and take off. Marshall asks Simon if his b-day really is tomorrow, and Simon confesses it's not. He was just trying to impress Nick and Eddie. Simon asks Marshall if he wants to do something, but Marshall decides he's gonna go hang out with Eddie and Nick. Marshall feels bad for leaving Simon behind. As Simon heads home, we hear his parents arguing, which makes Simon not want to go inside. So Simon is walking by himself in town, admiring the Sky Monsters through the window, wishing he had a pair himself. Simon then walks up to Mr. Wilson. Simon types in his name instead of his PIN number. Then surprisingly, Mr. Wilson remembers him and greets him by name. He asks Simon how he's doing, and Simon responds with, "I've been better." He tells Simon to cheer up, and then asks to select the transaction. Simon is confused and pushes the help button, which makes Mr. Wilson glitch out and hands Simon a bunch of money. Then Mr. Wilson says he's here for him and to have a nice day, friend. The next day, Simon is trying on the new Sky Monsters Part 2, buying them with cash. Mr. Radford, of course, is in a new disguise, calling himself Steve now. Simon then treats Marshall and his new friends to the biggest ice cream they have. Simon is telling Marshall and his friends how his dad raises his allowance and to have a nice day, which Marshall immediately thought was odd. Marshall's mom then busts him eating ice cream, spoiling his dinner, but also invites Simon over for dinner, but declines the offer to hang out with Nick and Eddie. Marshall knows something is very wrong. Later on, Marshall's parents are checking their bank accounts and notice some money missing. Marshall's dad notices that only one customer seems to be using Mr. Wilson. Marshall cleans his plate and is excused from dinner and heads to Simon's. At Simon's house, Simon is showing Marshall his B-Day cake, which is a repurposed wedding cake decorated with the message "Good luck, Julia and Kiefer." This is a reference to Julia Roberts and Kiefer Sutherland, who broke off their engagement to one another in 1991. Marshall apologizes to Simon for ditching him and notices Simon's parents having a good time.
Sounds like your mom and dad are having a party. My mom's not home. Oh.
This joke always cracks me up. Anyway, Marshall asks Simon if anything unusual has been happening to him, and Simon admits he's been seeing Mr. Wilson, which explains how he's been getting the shoes and ice cream. Marshall finds it hard to believe because Mr. Wilson is a robot. Plus, Simon doesn't even have a bank account. Simon then says it's because Mr. Wilson likes him, which Marshall then says it's impossible because Mr. Wilson is a machine. Then Simon opens his closet to reveal it full of money to prove it. Simon shows Marshall just how good of friends he and Mr. Wilson have become. Mr. Wilson then suggests a withdrawal. Marshall warns Simon that this could get them into a lot of trouble, but Simon says that Mr. Wilson has been getting it from a slush fund. Mr. Wilson then hands Simon and Marshall $100, and it's hard for Marshall to say no, but Marshall never spends it because he just can't, but it doesn't stop Simon from spending it. Simon has suddenly become really popular with the kids, but Marshall knows that they just want to spend his money. He didn't really spend any money on himself, just the other kids. Later on that night, Marshall's family is hanging out when the phone rings. You'll notice Cindy's flirting with the person on the other line. Marshall's dad is reading some reports and says Mr. Wilson has done over $40,000 in business so far, but it's all been withdrawals. But it makes him happy because that means somebody must really like him. Marshall asks if Mr. Wilson is okay, and Edgar says everything is fine. Cindy finally hands the phone over to Edgar, and it turns out it's the mayor on the other line. I love the little adult humor they had in this show. Anyway, the mayor tells Marshall's dad there's trouble, and he needs to come over there right away. It turns out Eerie is broke. Marshall follows his dad to the bank, where he meets with the mayor and the cops. One of the cops is played by Andrew White from Contagion, and the other one, Harry Goaz from Twin Peaks. It turns out over $1 million has been withdrawn. The cops arrest the mayor and take him in for questioning. The cops say a genius is behind this, and ask Marshall's dad not to leave town. Marshall's worried his dad might get arrested. Just then, Marshall's dad hears Mr. Wilson say, "See ya, boss," as the mayor gets taken away, which is pretty creepy. The next day, Eerie is in a mess. People are begging. The world of stuff is out of stuff. Everybody was broke. Everyone except Simon. Simon is still treating people on him. Marshall tells Simon that the money is coming from other people's accounts. Simon insists it's because Mr. Wilson just likes him. But Marshall bursts his bubble and tells him if the money isn't back by morning, they're pulling the plug on Mr. Wilson and arresting Marshall's dad. Simon says he doesn't want to go back to being boring, but Marshall gives him a pep talk and tells him that he likes him the way he is and proves to Simon that his new friends don't even know his real name. Later on, Marshall and Simon had to stuff, lick, and deposit every envelope for everyone in Eerie. As they do, Mr. Wilson seems worried and tells Simon he's been waiting for him. Simon then breaks the news to him that they are giving back all the money he gave him. Mr. Wilson pleads with Simon with every envelope deposited. Simon tells Marshall they are hurting his feelings, but Marshall tells him that he has no feelings, but Mr. Wilson disagrees with him. With every envelope deposited, Mr. Wilson slowly starts to go back to a normal teller machine. By the end of it, Mr. Wilson is just a normal machine. The next morning, they take apart Mr. Wilson as Marshall's dad looks on disappointed, and the truck carrying Mr. Wilson leaves. Mr. Wilson's hand falls out, and Marshall and Simon picked it up. We then see the mayor cleaning up the parking lot. Even though he was cleared of bank fraud, the judge sentenced him to 1,000 hours of community service, just in case. Marshall and his family give Simon a birthday he deserved. Marshall's dad seems happier, says Mr. Wilson was ahead of its time. Marshall and Simon put Mr. Wilson's hand into the evidence locker, and Simon tells him if you buy friends like Nick and Eddie, they won't last long, just like a pair of expensive tennis shoes. Well, that concludes the third episode, and I gotta say, it was pretty good. I used to love this episode as a kid. It was one of my personal favorites. I love the whole look of Mr. Wilson. It gave him a creepy appearance without meaning to. I love the little adult jokes they threw in too, and the cast is always great. Let me know what you guys thought. Do you guys remember this episode? Let me know below, and I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.